So the story starts in 1888. My great-great-grandfather, a gentleman by the name of Federico Colli, he's a large landowner in Cuba and a developer. So he developed the Colli neighborhood in Havana, the Miramar neighborhood in Havana, the Vedado neighborhood in Havana. And in the late 1800s, he sells 100 acres of land on the outskirts of Havana in an area called El Bosque de La Habana to another family called the Blanco Herrera family. There was an industrialist family that had other businesses as well in Cuba.
100 acres?
100 acres.
Wow, that's a lot of
100 acres.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And it's, this. If you've been to Cuba before, I was there once in 2015. El Bosque de La Habana is this magical place. It's like this, it's a forest on the outskirts of Havana. And, it has a river that runs through it. It's called the Almendares River that starts at the mouth of the Atlantic Ocean, of the bay, and then runs all the way into the inner part of Cuba. And so this river cuts through El Bosque de La Habana. And again, my grandfather owned a lot of that land, and he sells 100 acres of land to the Blanco Herrera family. And the Blanco Herrera family, which are my partners today, I'll talk about that in a second, they founded the Cuban beer industry with this brewery called Cervecería La Tropical in 1888. And La Tropical beer, la primera cerveza cubana, the first beer ever brewed on Cuban soil. And so that's sort of where it starts. By 1960, the brewery, La Tropical, becomes the largest brewery in Cuba, producing over 60% of all the annual production capacity of the island with multiple brands. We're all from Miami, and we're all Cuban, so we know the Cuban story very well. 1960, yep. Cuban Revolution, private properties nationalized, and a lot of our families, and my family specifically, flees Cuba, and we're all born here, product of that exodus. Mm-hmm. And really, between 1960 and 1998, outside of Cuba, the brand vanishes. It's gone. It disappears. I had heard, as a kid, I had heard stories growing up, but I don't know about you guys. When I was 15 years old, I can give a shit about Cuba or anything else. I was worried about where I was going to get laid and with what girl, and I was playing football. That was the furthest from my mind at that point in time. Days. Okay, so but then I got to my middle to late 20s, and chip changed in my head, right? And the chip went from not giving a shit to where did I come from, and why are we here, and what was the story, and hey, tell me again, Grandma, about those stories that you.
Where were you at that age? Like, where did you live? You lived here still?
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Miami, a Westchester boy, Coral Park Elementary, a boy, and then we moved away, and I ended up coming back for high school. And I went to Belen Jesuit here in
another
Miami.
Belen graduate.
Yeah, these Belen graduates.
Podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like Nick is stacking the books.
But anyhow, so going back to the story, my late 20s, I started getting really interested with the family story. I had heard about my great-grandfather and these lands next to the brewery. As a matter of fact, my grandmother's home was near the brewery. And so I said, man, this is nuts. How did that just vanish and disappear? And no one did anything about it. I mean, obviously people did tried things about it, and they went to jail, and some got executed. My dad's a Bay of Pigs veteran. Spent 2 years in political jail in Cuba. So yeah, a lot of, but no one did anything about the business. And I said, you know what? I got to do something about it. I want to do something about it. And I began to research everything that I can possibly read and get my hands on La Tropical. I spent, I'd say, good 4 months of my life at the University of Miami Cuban Archives, reading every single piece of literature that's ever been written about La Tropical, whether in a magazine, in a book, or in an ad. And I did that, there was no internet, at least not like we know it today. It was on microfiche. So I became an expert.
Not the Google machine.
No. You had to go and put the time, baby, in front of one of those machines, You find the microfiche and start spinning that thing. And I became an expert at picking out the L's of La Tropical when the thing was moving like 100 miles an hour, right? The film. And anyhow, I read everything that I could read. And more importantly, I was able to find who was the last management team at La Tropical pre-1960. What were their names? What did they do? And because of that, I found the last master brewer of La Tropical, whose name was Julio Fernandez Selles. And then once I identified him through this research, I hit the Abuelita network in Miami to see who knew him.
That's a thick network.
Yeah, it's a thick network.
Yeah, you get all the info you need there.
You cannot get by in Miami without the Abuelita network, right? The Abuelita network is deep, brother.
Yeah.
You know, it goes
They sponsor us also.
Yeah.
They sponsor us also.
And so through that network,
We'll be invoicing you soon, Abuelitas.
oh yeah, they know everything and everybody. Okay, let me tell you. So anyway, through that Abuelita network, I actually found Julio in 1999, actually 1998, and of course, like everything in Miami, the guy lived like 10 blocks from my house.
Oh, amazing.
Okay, he lived in a condominium in Coral Gables on Biltmore Way. I lived on Catalonia in Granada, so it was like literally 10 blocks from my house. And I had been looking for the guy for over a year, and I couldn't find him. So I found him, and So stepping back one step further. So that research, we made contact with the Blanco Herrera family, Ramon Blanco Herrera, who's now become a very good friend and a partner. They were the founding family of La Tropical in Cuba. I said, Ramon, I've done all this research. Our families did business together in Cuba 135 years ago. And that time was 120 something. And I want to do this project. I want to do this project. I think someone has to save this brand. It meant too much to too many people. It employed thousands of people in Cuba. It was part of the social fabric in Cuba. Let's join forces. If our great grandfathers did it 135 years ago, why can't we do it today? And so we did that. We joined forces, became partners, and over the past 23 years, I've either acquired, registered, or taken the Cuban government to court in about 15 countries throughout the world and taken back all of our trademarks, all of our registrations, all of our commercial rights, and because of that, we're in the position that we are today.
What was the breaking point, though? I remember when we talked last time, when you told me the story originally, there was one time that really made a difference, taking them to court and that whole thing, of when you won one certain case that really...
Well, the interesting thing about that is that when someone steals something from you, it's very difficult to prove that you own it or that the person who stole it owned it. So, we took them to court and they didn't show up.
Shocker.
How are they going to prove that they own it? Right. And so that was the precedent.
Because they didn't own it, because they stole it.
Exactly.
Like they stole everything else.
Exactly.
Right.
So that really, was the snowball effect that had to have occurred that no one had tried that began to open up everything else. And until I had brewed it ever since 1998, but it was really more of it wasn't my day job, right? I was doing it as a passion project. I had a day job.
What was your day job?
So my day job until the middle 2000s was in the beer business. I worked for Anheuser-Busch, the world's largest brewer.
Oh yeah, they're big. I've heard of them.
You've heard of those guys. And then I actually left the beer business for a while and worked for Burger King Corporation. So I'm a beer and burgers guy.
Also another big company.
Yeah. I was with Burger King for almost 7 years.
Burger King does good work.
They do good work.
I want to co-sign it. They do solid work.
Yeah.
Burger King is also helmed by a Belen graduate, Jose Sil.
Jose was at La Tropical
I take it back. I take back everything I said about Burger King. McDonald's is still better.
If you also like Tim Hortons and Popeye's Chicken, that's the same company.
Yeah.
Popeyes does make some fucking good food, man. God bless.
Thanks, Jose.
Yeah. And then
Chicken
so
Brothers.
it was this really La Tropical was a legal thesis with some commercial application in the United States, mostly in Cuban restaurants, but not in a big way because I didn't have the capital I hadn't made it my sort of my everyday job. And that all changed in 2016. 2015 it started to change. In 2016 it actually happened. So in 2015, I catch wind that the Boston Beer Company was coming to Wynwood with
Concrete Beach.
Concrete Beach.
That's right.
I had, before they had opened, because of my contacts in the beer business, I had caught wind that they were coming. And I had a prior relationship with Jim Cook, the CEO of the Boston Beer Company, from my beer days. So I called Jim. I said, hey, Jim, it's Manny. You remember? Oh, yeah, Manny, I remember you. And, hey, listen, I hear you're coming to Wynwood. I said, I don't know if you've been to Miami lately. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But this town is, has a lot of Latin influence. Latin culture is important. Do you have a brand that you're thinking about for this local market? And he goes, well, we're developing and we don't have anything Latin. I said, well, let me tell you a story about this little brand that I have called La Tropical. And I told him the story. He goes, oh, man, that's a fascinating story. Let's do something together. I said, okay. So I ended up signing a 1-year licensing deal with the Boston Beer Company to do a sneak peek launch of La Tropical in May of 2016 at Concrete Beach.
No way.
And so we launched it. A huge success. The launch party, there was a line that stretched 4 city blocks in Wynwood to come in and try the beer.
Love that.
Okay. It became their number 1 seller in the tap room. And shortly thereafter, and I got a lot of media for it. The media was fantastic, a lot of publicity. And probably a couple of months after the launch, I had unsolicited offers to buy the brand from the Boston Beer Company and probably every major brewery in the world.
Oh, love that.
I ended up selling a majority interest of La Tropical to Heineken.
I've heard of them before.
Yep.
Ads at dademag.com. Heineken, whenever you want to reach out. Manny's got our number.
And those guys have been awesome. The reason why I had multiple offers, and the reason why I decided to sell to them is they bought into a big way the vision that I had for the brand. And the vision was, oye, I've been comiendo mierda for 23 years with this thing.
Right.
And I'm no longer 28 years old. I'm 54 years old now. And as I tell my kids, I'm going big or I'm going home.
That's right.
And the vision was, let's establish this brand with a Cuban soul and a Miami lifestyle, and let's build a brewery that is reflective of the global international city that Miami is today.
God damn it, I love that.
Fuck! Anything less, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so they bought into that, and it's been awesome. We bought a piece of property in Wynwood that they invested behind. So we own a 1-acre property in Wynwood right now. That was the other thing. I said, lease or buy. Always buy.
Buy the dirt.
Buy the dirt, baby. Buy the dirt, and that's been one of the best decisions that was ever made.